Hello everyone and welcome to the big walkthrough urban adventure. My name is Richard and I will be taking you through this live stream today with Jimmy Cheng, who we will introduce in a second. If anyone hasn't seen what a big walkthrough is yet, then essentially it is 3 parts. It's an equipment showcase, it's a settings and techniques, and it is then a nice little bit of inspiration from Jimmy himself. And we are all basing it on street photography today, so urban adventure, which can mean a lot of different things. But let's go through it, and let's get Jimmy on in a second, and we'll take all your questions and stuff as we go through. There is a dedicated question and answer time later as well. And hello to everyone as well. There's a lot of people coming in, which is amazing. So thank you very much. I'm seeing lots of Florida, Sweden, Minnesota. So thank you very much for joining us today. So let's get our slides up for today very quickly, and we'll move into the poll. So as always, we do a poll. So are you an OM system user? Yes or no, let us know. And do you shoot street photography? I'm really intrigued in terms of, if you do shoot, what type of street photography do you do? It'd be really interesting to know. So please let us know, and hopefully we'll give some feedback from that later on as well. That'd be amazing. Okay, so today we're joined by Jimmy Cheng. He's a very talented street and travel photographer who takes ordinary moments and makes visual stories out of them. And you couldn't ask for some better stories than we'll probably hear today. So please welcome Jimmy to the stage. Hello, sir. How are you? Oh, we have no audio. Hold on. Is that a me thing?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes. Hello. Well, sorry.
Hi there, and thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So, how has 26 been for you so far?
It has been interesting, to say the least. First of all, the weather has been going up and down in London.
Yes, yeah.
But we can talk a little bit about that, because weather does actually help in terms of creating, some amazing photograph. So yeah, that's good for me at least.
Yeah, so the weather does make a real impact, and yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, the UK weather's gone a bit weird. It's like we're meant to have heat waves over the weekend, but right now you had hail a minute ago. So
yes, yeah, it was really. I could hear it from here.
Brilliant. So for the people that don't know you, then Jimmy, how did you get into street photography? What got you here?
Right. It's actually started right from the beginning, although that I didn't think it was street to start with. That I literally just a young student who was given a very old point and shoot film cameras, because I'm quite old, by the way, so it wasn't digital. So I was given
a little Jimmy. You're fine.
Little point and shoot camera. So that's all I had, just one simple camera, and I was traveling a little bit, and everywhere I travel, I started snapping around, just out of interest. I don't know what attracted me at the time, but I just saw something in front of me. I thought, oh, that looks all right, and I just started clicking it. And the more I clicked, the more I found out I kind of like this look, kind of like this kind of approach in terms of photography. And then I started snapping more and more and more, and eventually I starting to write blogs about where I'm traveling, and I post those photos that I took in those blogs. Within about 3 years, my travel blog at the time has amassed about over 500,000 subscribers, and wow. People were looking at my travel blogs, that they read about everything that I wrote, then look at all the pictures that I took, and eventually some people starting to contact me directly, and most of them were actually publishers. So they actually say, your images looks pretty good, can we publish some of your photos or talk to you about your photography? And I think really at that point I started to realize that, oh, maybe this is actually something I could focus on and develop over time. That's exactly what I did, and so that's how I kind of got into it.
Nice. That's I think that's a very brief description. I feel like there's more that happened in between. Um,
Yeah.
I imagine that was a very exciting time growing into the industry like that. I imagine it's
Yeah.
quite funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and absolutely, because I mentioned that I started with analog, so everything was very different back then, and even writing blogs at the time is what it was the thing. There was no Instagram, there was no Facebook, social media as we know now didn't exist back then. All they
Yeah.
had were just some simple websites, and people were writing a lot, and so blogging was a big thing, back in the
Yeah.
late 90s, early 2000s, and everybody blogs, and now everybody vlog, video log, so
Yeah.
the whole thing has really shifted now. I don't know how many people still blog or still write those stuff, but I actually find it quite interesting because in some way you can really associate that with National Geographic. When you buy those magazines, you see these travel documentaries, you see all these images and articles about these places. They are basically travel blogs, if you read about them. So speaking of National Geographic, a few of my images did feature in National Geographic as well. So
Wow.
it's how the whole thing kind of got me into it.
Nice. That's I admire that slightly. So I want to know then a little bit
Yeah.
about kind of what you got planned coming in further into 2026. Then we're halfway through. What can we expect from you for the next half of the year?
Well, I'm gonna try and experiment something new, because I think that's what's interesting about photography is that, especially with digital, you can experiment different effects, different kind of approach to photography. And now we got equipments like the OMSYSTEM.Cameras that have all kinds of computation and stuff that you can really, trying to dig in and have some fun with it. Coupled with some of these specialist niche lenses you can attach to it, it can really get something going. So while I'm still doing normal street photography, normal travel photography, and portraiture, which I do a lot, and now I'm just looking forward into the next 2, maybe even 3 years, and I'm starting to experimenting new techniques and new things for maybe a new project.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm sure we'll find out very soon what that's about then.
Yes.
So, okay, shall we crack on with equipment showcase? You ready to go for
Yeah,
this?
sure.
Let's do it. Okay, so equipment showcase. So today we're going to highlight 2 particular cameras. But first, would you tell me a little bit about this image? It's probably one of my favorites that you've sent into the slides. So I'm intrigued by this one.
Right. Yeah, this is what I would call it the subject isolations, and which it's a very common techniques among street photographers. They try and always to isolate a single person, in a frame, and also depending on what sort of theme you're going for, what sort of approach you're doing. In this particular case, I this is actually at the bank right in the center of London. There's a wall with these basically stone columns lined up, and I always like the symmetry, and this is also part of my style. I like symmetry, I like lines, and I like shapes. So that is something that I'm always trying to look for when it comes to street photography. But in this particular case, you can see the reflection on the ground, and this shot was taken straight after a big storm. So and always like a little bit of a difference there, because with reflection it creates a slightly different look to the picture, not only just about texture of the background, but also about the reflection, that kind of like more like a rebounding some energy back up, when you look at a shot.
Yeah, it's it's a great image. I love the fact that that reflection is there. It just works, and even in terms of that nice creaminess of the texture of the stonework behind, just works so well. It's brilliant.
Yep. Thank you.
So, so I know you like cameras. You like a bit of tech. I know that much.
Yep.
What brought you to OM in the first place? What was it about our kind of us as a brand that brought you to us?
Right. Obviously, this is quite I mean, I could say personal, and
Okay.
without naming any brands before that. But when a photographer hold a camera, almost instantaneously, you know whether that camera is for you or not. It's quite hard to explain. It's almost like meeting your wife, right? Kind of thing. Like, oh, love at first sight. But this is obviously not just looking, because as a photographer, as much as I shoot on the daily basis, I almost instantly know when I hold something in my hand. And this is the first kind of first attachment to it, is how it feels in my hand. And the very first camera that I held back then, it was Olympus. I held the EM5 Mark 1, the very first one. But the one that got me really buy into the system is the EM1 Mark 2. That was the professional flagship camera. It really was that feeling. I held it, the grip just felt right in my hand. And when I held up to my eyes, I start shooting. The speed was phenomenal. And you know what? I was testing the camera for about a couple of months. And I just thought, this is a camera. This is that camera that I want to use for life. And then that was it. That was kind of my way in. And after that, been shooting all the EM1 Mark III, the EM1X, the OM1 Mark II, you name it, I have it all.
Yeah, that the EM1 Mark II again actually was my kind of way into OM as well, Olympus back in the day. Yeah,
Right.
that was a stunning camera.
It still is. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I still had mine, unfortunately. So what camera are you shooting with these days?
These days, OM3 really is my main camera. I have the OM1 Mark II as well, but the OM3, in terms of performance, is almost identical to the OM1 Mark II, but in a slightly better looking body. I have to say that.
Yeah. Let me bring the slide on and let's see.
Yeah. So I love the look of it. Being a fan, of retro styling cameras. In fact, I still have the original OM1 film camera, which looked almost identical to the OM3. And that OM1 was for my dad. So it's got a little bit of like a personal attachment to it, a bit nostalgic. And when I see this gorgeous body, and so I just thought, I got to try this. And as soon as I tried it, it even felt like the OM1, and the film OM1s. And I just fell in love with it. So I'm now shooting this basically, every time I go into the street.
Nice. Yeah, it's for me, the OM3 is a very well built camera and the depth of the spec is just phenomenal to match it. That 20.4 megapixel sensor with the IP rating as well. It just makes an ideal camera for street photography, right? It just allows you to go off and capture those moments where everyone else will run into a shop or whatever it would be because of the rain or the hail or whatever it might be. You can just stand there and go, no, actually, I'm going to capture you running through that rain and you're going to make my shot of the day. Because they can't do it, you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then it's things like the computational modes, right? So the stuff we put in there for the street side of things, so the multiple exposure, the live comp, just allows you to be creative in a very open, ready to go environment. And I think the last thing for me would be then the color dial situation. So being able to put in any color emulation or simulation you want to create, for me, that's amazing. What in terms of the camera, what are you using the most in that?
Mono. I think the mono mode, so in terms of color profile, I love monochrome, and OM3 with the color dial creates some of the most gorgeous straight out of camera black and white photographs you can get. And I'm not really joking. I mean, I've been through a lot of different cameras at different brands, and OM3 does produce some really lovely black and white JPEGs out there. And the fact is, you already mentioned that, the color dials are not just changing mode, but it does allow you to customize the look and feel of the actual effects. So you can change the S curve. You can lift up the shadow, compress the highlight, or change the color responses. So it's almost like virtual color filters put in front of the lens. And then you can add grain, you can add vignetting, you can basically you can create your own recipe with the OM3. So I created my own black and white recipe for my liking, and it may not suit everybody else's, but that's the way I like to shoot. So I store about 3 different kind of black and white mode in my camera, depending on situations, depending how I feel about the day. So that's what I tend to use. And also in terms of the CP stuff, the computational photography, I think, you probably see some images later in this slideshow today. I do love the live ND. I use the GND features quite a bit as well for traveling, and also multi-exposure, and together with live composite. I mean, live composite is something that I always love about Olympus cameras. That features alone, I think, is worth trying out.
Yes, yeah. I don't think that the live comp gets enough recognition. Then it probably should get some more, because it is a stunning piece of technology, I think. And we're actually going to go through it later. So hopefully we'll inspire people to use it a bit more, maybe.
Yeah.
So but in terms of OM3, if you're after a street camera that can just develop images on the go, where you don't have to really, like when I'm using it, I don't think too I don't think too technical. I just use it as a creative use. It almost like you find the shot, you expose for it, and it's done. You're not overthinking everything. And
exactly that. And I think that in many ways now, digital photography has evolved to the point that it can be quite overwhelming to many photographers, especially busy mom and dad or beginners. They just see these 20 menus pages, and then they just like, oh, what am I going to do with this stuff? With the color dial, sometimes it's really simplify things quite a bit, and you don't have to like go into the computer, further edit them, because everything is there, done, dusted. When you shoot that with that effect, you like it, and that's your image, and that's it. You can just store it, share it out. It's quite easy, and I do like that. Of course, being a professional, for my professional jobs, I do like, especially portraiture, I do shoot raw. But most of my street stuff, travel stuff, I tend to just use the color modal, just to get the effect I want and shoot it, and that's it. But I do keep the raw as a backup if I need to.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So for anyone that hasn't tried an OM3 or played with one, definitely get to your local stores and play with one. It's one of those cameras you have to spend 10 minutes with, and you'll suddenly just understand it completely. And I was a bit like that. So when I first started OM, I had the opportunity to go to Barcelona for 48 hours, and I couldn't take an OM1 with me. They made me take an OM3, and I was like, I don't understand why. So I took an OM3 and a 75mm and an 825. And I probably spent, once I got into Barcelona, I probably spent about, I would say 10, 15 minutes with that camera. And the whole concept of photography for me changed. I was thinking a lot more creatively. I wasn't thinking very technical. And I was looking to get that moment. I was trying to find those street moments. And for me, I'm a nature guy. So you could kind of go into street photography is a whole different aspect. But that is one of those cameras that will change your concept of photography, I find, personally.
That's
just me.
Of course.
So we're going to move very quickly into lenses now. There is, if the slides work, that is, there we go. There's a lot of lenses to choose from. I'm lucky enough that I've got most of them in front of me that are in the images here. But in terms of, the different types of lenses, for people that don't know, there's two different types of lenses. You have prime lenses, which are or fixed focal length lenses, and then you have zoom lenses. We're going to go through a little bit of both. We're not going to go through every lens because otherwise we'll all be here for 6 hours. But the main things to kind of show everyone is that we have two different sets. So we have what I would call a 1.8 set and then a 1.2 set. So for most people, if you're going to go into primes, you'd either go 17mm, 25mm, and the 45. You have two sets of those. And in reality, the 1.2s are going to give you a much better bokeh. They're pro glass, so they should be sharper. The color rendition's better out of them. But I think a lot of people use the 1.8s and are very, very happy with the results. Jimmy, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, especially since the 17 and 25 debut, the Mark II debut last 2 years, and I have been using the Mark II version of 17 and 25 a lot, and because they both are weather sealed now, so I take them out, and like I said, I actually like to shoot in the rain. Previously, I had to use the 1.2 Pro lenses because they were the only one that was weather sealed, but these days I tend to use the 1.8, not because the 1.2 is worse. In fact, they're much better. But as a street photographer and travel, and sometimes I wanted the smallest and the lightest package when I walk about.
Yeah.
It's also depending on where you're traveling to as well. I still use the 1.2 Pro lenses to somewhere where it's a little bit more extreme in terms of weather and temperature, because the Pro lenses, they are certified to work, to minus 10 degrees, and also the weather sealing is obviously a lot better than the 1.8 version. So if I know where I'm going, it's going to be very hostile in terms of the elements, and then I would take the Pro lenses, because right, you plan your trip, you know where you're going, and if you know that's going to happen, the place is going to be super humid, then I would take the 1.2 Pro lenses. That's without a doubt. But general day-to-day, for just walking around in London, like today, actually, I went out to have about 6 hours street walk today. I took the 17 and 25 1.8 Mark II lenses, so two of them, although I only actually used only one to 25. But so that's kind of my normal setup, just because they're smaller and lighter. But, like you said already, the images are actually very, very good as well.
Yeah, they are. The thing I like about the 1.8s is that you can put all of them in a pocket. You're suddenly not carrying a bag, and and around kind of London and big cities, the more bags you're carrying, the harder it is to carry around and that sort of thing. So, and then you end up not shooting because it's too much weight. So, let's give people a bit of kind of an understanding of just how small the 1.8s are in comparison. So, let's have a little look. So I've got a 25mm 1.2 here.
Yep.
And I've got the 25mm 1.8. So we are talking a considerable size difference. Weight difference is quite different, as like that 25mm is so light. And even if you look at things like the 45mm, so 45mm 1.2, 45mm 1.8, it's a big difference. And even looking at glass difference, it's quite a bigger element inside. So so if you definitely kind of want that sharper or kind of that bit more bokeh, that's that bit more of a blurry background, the 1.2s are definitely the way forward. However, don't underestimate those 1.8s, because they are a stunning piece of kit as well. And I think there's two more lenses very quickly to highlight on here. And actually, if you ask most of the OM team in the UK, they are kind of the two favorites. And that is the 75mm 1.8 and the 20mm 1.4.
I've got a 21.4 here.
Yeah, exactly right. So I never used to play around with the 20mm that much until I started with OM, but it doesn't really come off much off the camera anymore. I've got to say, it's sharp, it's quick. It's got a lot of spec in such a small lens, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Yes.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd say about the 75mm is that look at that front element on it. It is absolutely stunning. You can't really see it in here, but it's just got a beautiful front element to it. It's one of the reasons I actually came to OM in the first place, weirdly.
Well, I have to say the 71 is a sharp lens, very, very sharp lens.
It is, and I truly believe you can shoot anything on it. So I went to RAF Fairford, and I didn't have these 15400s or whatever it is. The biggest lens I had was a 75mm 1.8, and I'll still say I still got some cracking shots. So I was very happy with that. So, and it's one of our oldest lenses as well. So it definitely needs to. People need to have a look at it. Get in stores and actually have a proper play with it. It's an odd focal length, but you can shoot anything with it, honestly.
Yeah, and it's gorgeous.
I know, yeah. Yes, yeah. Let's just throw up some quick comments. So I like this one. My own 3 gets more than my own. Gets used more than my own 1. I think in a lot of occasions, if you do have both, the OM3 does come out a little bit more.
Yep.
So, there's a nice question here for you, Jimmy. Why use black and white in camera instead of in post?
No, there's no particular reasons for that. And I mean, I could simply do that, but just another step, and eventually I might come up with the same picture. But what I like about doing in-camera JPEG, especially for black and white, is first of all, it's quick. Second is that if I like the look of it, I like the look of it. I just don't want to overcomplicating myself in terms of the eventual output. To be quite frank, I have done in-camera JPEG, both color and black and white, even before the OM3. I used to shoot mostly JPEG in the early days of digital because I wasn't very confident in raw processing. So it's not something that I would say is worse than raw, or raw is better. It's depending how much you want to do with a photograph afterward. And like I said, a lot of street and travel stuff. If I snap that moment at that time, if whatever I see through the viewfinder, whatever picture profile I picked, and I like the look of it, and that's it. That I will call it a day. Basically, I may still do a tiny little bit of tweaks where when I go back home, just looking at the JPEG, I might tweak a little bit of the contrast or whatnot. But I won't probably touch the raw at all. I'll probably keep the raw as a backup for future purposes. I don't know, and raw processors may improve over time. That's another thing that obviously slightly side topics here. Raw engines get updated year after years, and if you process the same raw image that you got in 2015, it may be a shock to you, because if you look back at the photograph that you processed in 2015 and you use the same raw file that be processed in the latest raw software, whatever you use, Lightroom or whatever, they can look completely different. And this is another thing I don't like to mess around with colors too much. If I like that, I just keep it as that. So even with all my pro jobs, so once I process the raw, if I turn it turn the table around, if I process the raw, I try not to reprocess them years down the line unless I have to, absolutely have to. I just leave the processed image as my final image. It's similar to analog photographers. When they develop something, they keep that developed photos, and then or the printed versions, that they're not going to go back and redevelop it or reprint them. And it's that simple.
Yeah, makes sense. There's also another lovely little comment from here as well. Great to see you on some lives. So
Awesome.
So let's move on to some examples then from these lenses. So 17mm 1.8, if I believe, Mark II. Talk us through the image, Jimmy.
Right, this was taken in Tokyo Ginza area last year now, I think. And it's actually a very interesting image. It's very dynamic. First of all, it was taken live, of course. What I like about this is the patterns and shapes all mix and match together. But what I noticed in this particular spot before I even took the photograph was first of all is the where the light is hitting the ground, because it's very confusing to start with. You got light hitting at all angles, but you can only see one key light, which is the sun was actually behind me. But you look at the image, you see the shadows coming the other direction. It's all because of that glass building in the far end, and it's reflecting the sun backward. So it's creating the really interesting and yet complicating lighting situations. And that's really caught my eyes. And I thought if I create something like this in here, no matter not only I can create something that's very complex, but also at the same time, is all subjects, regardless of which angle it is going to be well lit, because the light was reflecting everywhere in all directions. And I think this is quite a hard shot to get, just because of the where the light hits. But I managed to get that. Not only that, though, I did notice before I clicked the shutter button in this particular case, I did notice the subject right in the center of the frame. The lady in with the red coat, and the one next to her in the white coat. Because if you look around, most of them were in very dark clothing, like mostly, very grayish, darkish. So these two really caught my eyes. And first of all, I noticed the one in red walking towards me from distance. And I noticed the one when I was waiting in this particular spot, I saw this lady on my right wearing the white coat. And then I thought, if these two cross in the middle, and that will be the shot. And indeed, they did. So I have a little bit of luck there. So they walk towards each other, and I just snapped that shot here.
Yeah, it's a great shot. I also like the fact that you, like on the right hand side of the image, your eye goes down that street, right? You're trying to find more of that street, so your eye kind of starts in kind of bottom left and just walks all the way through down that leading line, through all those shadows as you mentioned, and obviously the two people in the coats as well. So
yeah, and also we earlier I did say that I like symmetry. I don't know if you notice the symmetry here, and the symmetry is you can see that the building right in the middle and the two side streets. So it actually superficially the background actually is symmetrical on both sides.
So it is. You can well, that's very good. And we got one other sample, which is then the 20mm 1.4.
Yes, multiple exposure or double exposure in this case. This one was done just a couple of months ago in Rome. I was hanging out with a bunch of photographers, and I just wanted to do some double exposure because she got the really nice side profile, and I just asked her, how about I do a double exposure of you? And to be able to create double exposure, you need to be very selective on the first shot, with the background, and then you overlay the second shot on top of it. So, and because of like I said, the side profile of her is quite attractive. So what I did was place her in a very bright spot, so I can basically do a silhouette shot of her, which is just a side profile. And then the second shot is I have her holding the camera herself in a very dark alleyway. So then I could basically, and she was lit, obviously, and then so you can pop out in the shadow bit when you overlay each other. That's how I created the shot. It's actually pretty cool.
It's a great shot. I really like it. We've got a few more comments just before we lose them a little bit. So where's the one I wanted to see? Bit of a personal question. May I ask what you upgraded from?
Oh,
so when you came to L1, you can diplomatically answer if you wish.
Well, no, it's fine. I just want to ask though, when you say what I upgraded from, is you mean before the OM3 or I kind of like trying to answer it correctly before I kind of answer the wrong questions. Because if you think about my current camera, which is the OM3, in fact, I'm more like downgrading from the OM1, so it's not quite an upgrade.
Yes, yeah.
It's quite hard to answer this because I think that most of the cameras that I use are in terms of features, or in terms of the build or the quality is almost going to be pro grade level cameras, because that's what I do on a daily basis. I need the cameras that can withstand elements, withstand a little bit of bump and knocks here and there. So I always get kind of high grade cameras for my jobs. So I know that it would work and continues to work. Even heavy rains, if people bump into me or if I just accidentally drop it, I know it's still going to work. So I never really kind of have I wouldn't say downgrade, upgrade. I always kind of get similar sort of cameras right from the start. The only thing that I would say that I upgraded from is probably like way back when I first started, that film analog point and shoot camera.
that makes sense. That makes sense. I kind of believe that every camera is great no matter what brand it is. Like no one would make a camera and make a poor camera, right? So every camera is great in any shape or form. So it's all about kind of how you're taking pictures with it, I think, is the answer to it.
Absolutely.
This was a bit of an OM question, and quickly the answer is no idea. Haven't seen one, haven't played with one, so no. And then this is a good one. Recently brought an EPL9 with a 1442, which is a nice camera to be playing with.
Yes.
What would be the next lens to play with? Street photography.
It's lovely. I mean, I have the EPL9 myself, and I also have the 14-42 lens as well. And so I know this combination very well. It's a great street camera, and the focusing is very snappy. It's not the latest camera, but it's actually pretty good and pretty decent. And I do love that flippy screen and at the back. So it's not a fully articulated screen, but flip up so you can do waist level shoot, which is a lot of street photo I like to do. I think the next lens, if you want to get a next lens for this camera, I think any of these 1.8 prime lenses will suit the body very well, because the EPL9 is quite a small and compact camera. It's got this boxy shape as well, so any of these smaller primes would feel quite good in the hand with the camera, because it's not overbearingly weighty and or front heavy when you like put it around your neck, for instance. So any of those tiny lenses would work very well, just like the 14-42 lens you got there. So it actually works quite well.
Yeah, I was going to kind of agree. I would have gone somewhere like a 25mm 1.8 or something like that, just to get that perspective. So let's move on to zoom lenses then. Now, we've got a massive range of zoom lenses, but and again, we could be here hours just talking about them.
Yep.
But the two ranges are kind of, well, I would say three ranges that you really want to show off. Is we do a f4 range, so that's a 825 f4, a 1245 f4, and then a 40-150 f4. And then we have the f2.8 range, which is the 7-14 f2.8, 1240 f2.8, and then the 40-150 f2.8.
Yep.
And the third range would then be what I call our all zoom or all travel lenses, where they do everything all in one trick. So you got the 12-100, and then you got the 12-100 f4 Pro, and then you have the 12-200, which obviously allows you to go even further, because on a 35mm equivalent, that's a 400mm lens, which that's a quite unique perspective, I'd say, in terms of zoom range, if you want to go anywhere and want one lens.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of zoom lenses yourself, Jimmy, what do you use?
That's a trick question.
Well, I'd throw one in.
I do use a variety of them, depending on situations, depending on where I'm going. And again, if I'm going to somewhere that I think is going to be very hostile, I tend to try not to change lenses. So if it's like going to like a desert and things like that, I know if I open up the lens and trying to change the lens, and sand might get into the sensor. So I try not to do that. In that particular case, I would probably go with something that have a massive flexibility when it comes to range. So the 12-100 f4 Pro is probably one of those lenses that I would take with me. And also I may get a second body and mount the 50-200 2.8 or the 40-150 2.8 before that. So these kind of my go-to. But if I'm going to urban, for instance, and some of the images you're going to see later that I took in Japan was indeed using the 8-25 f4 Pro. So the one that I'm using here right now, and you got it on the screen as well. a fabulous lens. I know we have the 70-14 2.8, but the 8-25 is cool. Let me explain why. Because 8 is very wide to start with, so you really want to do some ultra wide angle lens, ultra short, so you can get the 8mm. But you can also zoom all the way into 25, which is equivalent to basically a 50mm in full frame. So it's a standard lens. So it's flexible in that way. The 70-14 2.8 is magnificent. It's got a 2.8 aperture. It's sharp, is cool. But when it comes to the ultimate flexibility on the street, when it comes to urban, I think the 80-25 is really that cool because you can get a standard shot if you want to, and you can go ultra wide if you want to, all in a split second, just like turn the zoom ring and that's it, you're done. So I love that lens a lot. So these are kind of my go-to zoom lenses, but also use all the others that you mentioned in here.
There's a lot, right?
Yeah, there are a lot, yes.
I've got to put a special mention out to the 50-200. So I've been using that a lot recently for lots of different purposes. And the minimal focusing distance on that, the clarity, the speed on that. There's a reason why it's a white lens, and I think, it's a stunning lens. But going back to that 825, I'm actually using it for the camera right now. So what you're seeing me on is the 825 at about 10 mil. And I use that for all my landscape stuff. It's another one that if you want a one lens solution and you want that kind of everyday shot, that wide angle, like you said, it's perfect. Like if I'm going to do a lot of street, I would do a lot of architecture stuff personally, and I couldn't think of a better lens than that to shoot with for that sort of thing. So it's good. It's good. But to give you an idea, just very quickly, I haven't got another 825, so I can't show you size comparisons. But I have got 40-150, so 40-150 f4 and 40-150 f2.8. But this f2.8, obviously, it's been out for a very long time, and it's known to be one of the sharpest things in the book. It's quick, it's fast, it's a good workhorse lens. So and I'd still find a reason to go to the 40-150 f2.8 rather than the 50-200 sometimes. So there is difference. There is reason between them, isn't there, Jimmy?
There is. I mean, obviously the newer 50-200 is sharper, and also get that slightly longer range at the far end. But the 40-150 2.8 is no slouch either. And to be honest, like you said, that's a workhorse lens, and that lens has been in my bag for the past 10 years, and I just love that lens. And in fact, that was one of the first lenses I got when I moved into the Olympus system. Together with the 12-40 2.8 and 25 1.2, I think these were the three lenses I bought initially. And I've been using these lenses for all my jobs and everything like that. So they are my workhorse. My 40-150 is actually quite better now, but it still works.
Yep. Yeah. I've seen some 40-150 f2.8s take some proper battering, and they just always come working. They just always do their thing.
Yeah.
In terms of all travel zoom lenses, like I said, we've got two really in our range. So we've got the 12-100, which if you've got something like an OM5 Mark 1 or a Mark 2, then this, and you're going traveling, you go on a holiday, you want a one kit solution. This seriously for that is unreal. That is kind of the best lens to put on that, because it's not too top heavy when it's zoomed out and that sort of thing. It's a really, really good lens for that. But then if you're shooting OM3 or OM1 Mark II, then I would definitely recommend 12-100 f4. Again, it's not too heavy in terms of going, it's not going to bring your shots down or anything like that. It's all the weight's coming straight back into the body, so it's all well balanced. And it's a pro lens, right? So it's still weather sealed. Well,
the most attractive thing about the 12-100 f4 Pro is the image stabilization in the lens, and it works with the body, which got CIS. So you got another extra stop and a half stabilization, and that means that you can actually do some proper long exposure shot handheld.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's see some images from you then, Jimmy. As we were saying, 825 f4 couldn't get a better example if I say so myself.
Yeah, I love this photograph, and in fact, this is a very iconic location. If those who have been to Japan before, again, this is where Ginza is, so they're basically not too far from the other shot you just saw. But this, of course, is actually sunset time. So I stand at a corner there, had my tripod. I did use a tripod in this particular because the exposures are a little bit longer than I could hold. Then I use live composite. So, we talked a little bit about that earlier. It's good. It's a great feature to have because one good thing about live exposure is that not only you can get a long exposure shot, but secondly, you're never ever going to overexpose a shot, and that's the cool thing about it. Once you set the ideal exposure or the look that you want to, and you set it, and the system will just calculate itself. So that's the maximum value that it's going to absorb. So basically, anything slightly brighter is going to build on top of it. So it's actually really cool. You can see it build up on the back screen, so you can actually see it happening live in front of you. And then you just stop whenever you think that, oh, that's enough now. Let's stop it. So that's the mode I was using. So I just love these locations, and the reason I wanted to use live composite in this particular case was because this area is quite busy, and it's always got traffic lights and cars moving fairly slow. So if I do a normal long exposure shot without live composite, I could easily overexpose a shot or messed up with the exposure. So by doing live composite means that I set the exposure time. I mean, this exposure itself, the actual brightness of it. Then I just wait for the car to go past, and then no matter it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't really matter because he's just slowly building it up, and so that works for me. And I think this is probably one of those shots that you could probably only do while via a live ND. So live composite, because of that very reason, the cars are just moving very, very slow, and so if you do any other way, you risk of overexposing a shot. That's for sure.
Yeah. Any idea how many pictures that is? We'll talk about live composite later, but any how many shots that was all composited together? Any idea?
No idea. I mean, I was there for about 15-20 minutes, I think, and
Okay.
altogether I think I took about 3 shots. That's all I did. The first one didn't work out, the second one didn't work out just because the light didn't come around the right angle. I didn't quite like the light trail, so this was the best one out of the 3. And after that, the scene looks too dark, and so it just didn't quite look well to me. Because what I like about this photograph is also the sky is still maintaining the sunset color. So you got a little bit magenta, orangey color in the cloud formations up there, and the sky is still blue. Because the latest shot that I did after this one was basically turning black, so it's getting darker and darker, although the building is the same exposure, but all the other things becoming darker. And so yeah, this is like a really cool effect, so to speak, and it's got that blue sky, but it's kind of like a night shot.
Yeah. And the next image we have is this one, which I love the colors in this.
Yes, and this is cool, right? And a little bit of a backstory there for this one, and this is in Osaka, and I was using the 12-100 f4 here, and earlier I did say about the IS in the lens, and that really helped with this particular shot here. I'm not sure whether people can see this shot with all the people in the frame. They were all holding umbrella because it was chucking down. It was like torrential rain, and I was the only one on the bridge that I'm standing in, looking through the canal into the distance, and I had my camera, I had the 12-100, and I stood there without any tripod, any support, and I took this shot. It's hard. It's a hard shot to take, and I zoomed all the way into 100 this particular shot, so it's not a wide angle because I was actually quite far away from this bridge, and so the 100 really helped me in terms of reach to create the compression, and also I can get close to the bridge with the people in. I can see all the umbrellas. And it's really, really awesome to see how much that you can push the OM system cameras in terms of stabilization, because in this particular shot really demonstrated how effective it is. I think that if if I didn't have a lens IS using any other lenses, and I may not be able to get this shot at all, unless I'm using the 50-200 IS lens. But when I took this shot, that lens wasn't out yet, so I didn't have the chance or luxury to have that. So this was the only lens I had at the time, and or carry with me to Japan, and it worked out well for this particular shot.
It's a great image. Again, I love the colors coming out of it. I love the reflection out of the water as well. Just that purple hint coming through. It's beautiful.
Yeah. In this particular case, I did do some processing, post processing, just do the highlights and shadows, and I did massage the file a little bit there, and also wanted to highlight. You probably can't quite see from the screen here, but you can actually see the raindrops, and so it's actually pretty cool. And if you really zoom in, you can really see it. So it's actually something that I really wanted to capture. I want to capture, the rainy shots in a very colorful city.
Yes. Yeah. So we've got some questions in that are appropriately timed. So I've been shooting birds with larger zooms with an OM1 Mark II. Moving into street, what should be my first 1 or 2 lenses? And we've just seen a lot of lenses, so there's a big choice.
Yes.
What's your thoughts?
Right. I would think that you may want to get a zoom and a prime. So a zoom would give you that flexibility to try out. There are obviously different people got different preferences. People sometimes use a longer lens to do street photography, which is no right or wrong answers there. But there are also some other street photographers like to get up close and personal, so to use a wider angle lens. So what I would suggest to give it a go by getting like the 8-25, like I mentioned already. This is a really good flexible lens for the street, and then you get a prime, a slightly faster prime, the 25 1.8, maybe even a 45 1.8, just to give it a go. And because I think the main thing is you have to try your preferred angle of view or focal length that you want that will fit your vision. Because it's quite hard for me to advise sometimes, especially everybody's different. Everyone look at the street differently, and there's some people really prefer the really wide look, and some would just, I just punch in, get the detail. I'm gonna like to use a longer lens. I mean, lately I know a photographer who exclusively using a medium tele, so like a 85 millimeters in full frame, so almost like basically 45 in micro four third. He just shoot with that type of focal length exclusively for all his street photography. And I, on the other hand, I like it quite wide, and not ultra wide, but quite wide. So I do a lot of mine in 35 in full frame. So in our micro four third is 17, and I also like the Nifty 50. So I like the 25 quite a bit as well. So these kind of my go-to focal lengths. And so for you, I would advise maybe trying out the 8-25, because it's a really good lens to start with. And even if you don't like street in the future, hopefully not, and then you can still use this lens for many different things as well, for landscape. So this is a very versatile lens. It's worth checking out.
Yeah. My advice is 8-25 mil and the 75 mil 1.8. It's all you need. And another one for you. So when taking images like the Tokyo crosswalk, do you use human subject detection?
No. The reason is it's because sometimes not just talk about OM but other brands as well, and it depends on, so first of all, what sort of lens you got, and also what sort of aperture you're setting. In my particular case, like this image that you're seeing right here, the depth of field is actually very deep, and so it's not actually, I think I shot this one with f5.6, not quite f4. I didn't open it wide as well in this particular shot here. I'm just trying to get a little bit more depth of field in here because I want to see more or less everything in focus. But on the other hand, if you shoot everything wide open, for instance, and sometimes when you have subject detections on, the computer in the camera will starting to decide whatever it thinks is the subject to focus on. So if you have a bunch of people, and it may focus on the wrong people and bring something out of focus. So you just have to be very careful about what you want to do with the subject detection. What I tend to do in this particular case is using single AF, That's the first point. And also trying to switch off subject detection. I just focus on an area that you really want to focus on the actual picture, and then I just leave it at that, and just let everything happen in front of you, and then you click the shutter.
Yeah. And another one for you. The Osaka shot, single exposure or live comp?
Single exposure. No, not live comp, this one, because I have to freeze the frame. So that's the thing. A live comp would make it a very nice cityscape shot. But in this particular case, I want to freeze it. I want to see people. I don't want to see them blur. So I need to maintain a relatively usable shutter speed, not very fast in this particular case, because I have to kind of make a judgment and compromise in terms of how fast I can shoot, how much ISO I can push, how long I can stand there, that kind of thing. So I have to make a judgment for this particular shot here. I can't exactly remember what's the setting in this, but I think it was 5.6 aperture, ISO. I think ISO 400, maybe 800. So it wasn't actually that high, but I did take a slightly longer shutter speed. So maybe 150, 130 of a second, maybe even slightly slower. I can't remember now, but with the Sync IS, it works totally fine. Even with a 100mm focal length, it just worked.
Nice. And we've actually got a question about, very quickly, about OM5. So what are your thoughts on the OM5 series for street photography? At the moment, I'm a Fuji user, had Olympus a few years ago.
Yep. That's interesting, because if you use the the EM5 Mark II, which I also had, that was a brilliant camera. The OM5, it will blow you away, because it's significantly faster than the EM5 Mark II. The focusing system is great, because it's now got a hybrid AF now, and it's really good for tracking. In fact, the OM5 gut came from the EM1 Mark III. So EM1 Mark III was a very speedy camera, and so the OM5 is just a miniature size of the EM1 Mark III. It's good. It's really, really fast. And yeah, if you want a very lightweight camera, I think the OM5 really fits the bill, because it's great. In fact, I just got one right here. In front of me. There you go. I told you I got everything.
You've got everything.
I got everything.
So yeah, so what we're saying is OM5, it will still do street. It's still got stuff in it to make it happen. So yeah. If you think that's the right way to go, then go that way, sure. And then just very quick one. I'm afraid of street because of people might get angry. We're actually going to talk about that a little bit later on, aren't we? So we'll bring that. We'll answer that question as we come into that, I think.
Yep, sure.
So cool. And then we've got one last camera to highlight very quickly, which is TG7. And I think this is the most underrated camera we sell. Everyone thinks it's just a normal underwater compact, and it hasn't got any of the computational modes in it or anything, but that's not true. It has pro capture in it. It has the super macro mode that none of the other cameras have, but you can take a picture of your fingerprint, for example. I had a colleague taking a picture of my eye with this camera the other day. Like, it's an astonishing beast of a camera, and it's practically indestructible. We ran skateboards over one last Friday, and it still worked after that. So, what's your thoughts on this camera?
I love the TG. I always love the TG, and my very first TG was the TG5, and you might see a couple of shots later actually took from the TG, and I took it to Cuba when my kids were still very young, and it survived the humidity, it survived the swimming, the kick around by the kids, and it just worked out very well, and to this day I still use the TG. I mean, I got the TG7 as well. Last year, where we went to Wales, so we swam under the whole family went to a waterfall. We swam underneath it, and we know that if you want to take pictures under a waterfall, you're not going to take your OM1, OM5, or anything like that. I mean, it's weather sealed, but it's not waterproof, so don't do that. And I mean, I could potentially take an action camera. Action camera can do that, but that's not a proper camera if you want to take pictures. So the TG7 is kind of like have that unique propositions there. I can take proper picture under that kind of extreme environment, and I don't have to worry about the water. I don't have to worry about dunking into the pond, getting splashed by the water coming from above. Yeah, it just generally really cool camera. Like you said, it's actually got a lot going on for that thing. For many people actually don't know about this camera. It's way more than just a camera. And if you press, I can't remember which button you press, one of the menu buttons, when the camera is off, it bring out a barometer, it bring out a compass. So it's actually a tracking tool as well. If you like hiking, this camera actually does everything for you.
It's got everything, hasn't it?
It's
it
got
really
everything,
does.
yeah.
Like my son, who's about 3.5, he loves this thing. So when I'm shooting in my back garden or going out into the woods or something, I will give this to him, and he knows how to pick it up and turn it on, use it. And I don't know how he does that. I don't know how 3-year-olds know how to turn things on when you've never shown them, but they do. But like, he'll take pictures of everything with this. So he'll like, suddenly he's got really brave to go to spiders and take pictures of them because of this camera and stuff like that. And suddenly he'll dunk it into a pond or something like that, and I've got to fish it out. But every time I'm like, this could be the end of it. Nope, it just keeps on working.
Yes,
so
it does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
And I think the best question for this is, I have a TG5. Is it worth a TG7 upgrade?
Yes. I mean, there's a couple of things that I really like about the TG7 over the TG5, which I also had, like I said. Actually, I still have it. Is that, first of all, it's USB-C now, so you can top up battery very, very easily with a power bank. Any power bank these days are USB-C compatible, so you don't have to carry that micro USB anymore. So use a single USB-C cable, and it would top up the battery very quickly for you. And secondly, it's kind of like a weird thing to say that, and but it does have a the timestamp mode. Which is it's kind of like a nostalgic thing, and people may not like it, but sometimes it's a thing now that a lot of young photographers are looking for a compact point and shoot camera that had that features. It's kind of weird, but the TG7 has the timestamp features, so when they record the JPEG image, it will timestamp it for you, so you can see what date it is and what time you shot that photo and things like that. If you don't want it, don't worry about that. It shoots raw anyway, so you can keep the raw image without timestamp.
I forgot to even put raw. That's got raw on the slide there, but yes, even got raw. So is it worth the upgrade? Absolutely.
I think so.
Quite a big upgrade.
So, yeah.
This is a nice one as well. So didn't Emily, Micro Four Nerds, take an OM3 underwater in Iceland? If I remember seeing, I think she did. But I've also had a friend and a key opinion leader who is on one of the next OM talks actually go and take an OM1 under Niagara. So that, and it still survives. So
well, I would say, that the reason I mentioned that is that where I was, it's not simply walking underneath it. I had to walk with a terrain of very slippery rock, and I was in my swimming trunk because I know I'm going to fall into it, and I did. So I wouldn't take any chances in that particular case to take my OM3 or the OM1 with me to walk through that little rocky bit, just because people literally just go there to swim. And I just want to go there not only to swim, but to take some shot when I was dunking into the water. So OM3 definitely will not survive in that particular case, because if I dip it into the water and that's it, that will be the end of the OM3.
You definitely don't want that. And this is quite a good question for you. So I have an EM1 Mark II. Is there a reason to upgrade to an OM1 Mark II? The big answer is yes, right? However, for nostalgia reason, keep your EM1 Mark II because it's a beautiful camera.
Yes, it is. And I think that again, if you go to the store and try the OM1 Mark 1 or Mark 2, and you find a significant difference in performance. Even the EVF, the OM1 has a much higher resolution EVF that you would notice straight away compared to the EM1 Mark 2. It definitely, is a big upgrade. So I think yes, the answer is very quickly yes.
Yeah, even in terms of processing the new sensor.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it is just a full-on upgrade. But don't make the same mistake as me. Keep your EM1 Mark II. That's it's a must do. And there is one last question here just before we move on very quickly. And I like this question because I remember selling the SH50s. I would say they're two very different cameras. But obviously we don't make compacts anymore like the SH50. So I would say definitely go for a TG7. But yeah.
And it's small and slim, right? You can just keep it in your pocket all the time. You know, like even if you have a main camera, then that thing can be just with you. And if the weather become very hostile, take out a TG7. You know, it's gonna work even after lightning strike.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it can take on pretty much anything. And like now we didn't say it was lightning proof in any shape or form, but you hopefully everyone gets the idea. So, so that's the end of the equipment showcase. Hopefully everyone's got something out of that. If any of the lenses or any of the bodies and cameras excite you in any way, then make sure you go out into your stores, go and play with them, come to some of the events where you'll be able to play with them firsthand and get to see myself. And we'll talk about a little bit about events in a little bit later, because we've got a little exclusives with Jimmy to talk about. But yes, make sure you kind of get your hands on with the equipment. Go and play with an OM3. It's a very exciting camera. So, settings and techniques. So before we start, as I always say, lots of people shoot in lots of different ways. There's no right or wrong. This is just a beginner's guide to how Jimmy would shoot his camera in most average conditions, I would say. So let's move on. So, setup settings, mode dial. Where do you normally sit, Jimmy?
I usually sit between A, which is aperture priority, between A, S, and M. Actually, I do use all three, so depending on scenarios, because A obviously is the aperture, then that's to control not just light, but also about the depth of field as well. And then and this S is when I want to decide to blur something or decide to sharpen something, like freezing something, and then I use the S. And M, of course, is when I think the computer is making wrong judgment. I just want to take control of it, and I'll use M.
Makes sense. And it really is that simple. But if you're looking to learn how to control light through your camera, go to the program mode. That's where I started. Set of flowers on a table, go into program mode, move those dials up and down, understand what it's doing, how it's changing, and then you can go into all the other modes and get a better understanding from that as well. That's always a good start. So right, quick fire round then, Jimmy. So we're going to go through these fairly quickly. So what is your average settings, you would say, for, let's go for it, shutter speed?
For shutter speed, I tend to keep it between 1/200 to 1/500. So this kind of speed that I'm going for, fairly fast to freeze something. But there are occasions where I actually deliberately slow it down. So it just really depends what kind of thing that I'm going for. So shutter speed will change from time to time.
Aperture.
Apertures I usually shoot between f6.3 f8, actually, quite deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about kind of the like street portraits? Is that slightly different, maybe? Or
no, even with street portrait, sometimes I do it at very small, small aperture as well, like 5.6 and f6.3 as well. There are occasions I use very shallow depth of field, and it just depending on the context. If I'm doing environmental portrait, for instance, then I tend to use more depth of field. So I use a bigger number, so like f4, f5.6, just to keep the separation as minimum as possible while still maintaining a little bit of it.
Yeah, makes sense. And what about your ISO range?
That obviously changes all the time depending the previous two values. I mean, it's depending on the lighting conditions, so it's hard to say about that. But of course, being a photographer, if you want to keep the images as high as possible quality, then you probably want to shoot lower ISO as much as possible, depending on what kind of setting I had between shutter speed and aperture.
Yeah, perfect. And frames per second.
Frame per second. These days I tend to do sequential, and I still do singles. And for portrait, I tend to do single, and because I can control. While sequential, it just gives me a slightly better chance of capturing that frame that I want. And but I won't do spray and pray. I don't go overboard, like doing extremely high number of frames or too fast, for instance. I won't do that. But as soon as I know that's the moment, I'll just take 6-7 shots sequentially for that moment, just make sure that I capture that really one shot that I want in that particular spot that I'm going for.
Cool. And the next set of settings, so focus types.
It's usually between single AF and CAF, just depending on what sort of thing I'm going for again. Because I'm shooting relatively a small aperture, or great depth of field, and between f6.3 and f8, most of the stuff is going to be in focus anyway. So single AF sometimes works quite well with me because there will be no lagging, and also there will be no hunting in some cases, because especially, like I said earlier, if you do have subject recognition on, the computer can go nuts sometimes, depending on how busy the scene is. And so I think a lot of the time, if I shoot on the street, I tend to use single AF and shoot deep depth of field like f8, and I literally cover everything that I need.
Cool. And how does that work with your focusing grids? What are you using these days?
Focusing grid, I tend to use middle. And I just move around the scene, or the frame, within the viewfinder, just see whichever part that I would like it to focus on. But like I said, again, because I shoot relatively deep depth of field, that doesn't matter too much in this particular case, unless I decided suddenly I want to have a little bit of a pop in a photograph and shoot much wider aperture, then I'll change it altogether.
Yeah. Metering.
I just let the computer decide, so I guess it's probably just average, and it's only because these days, with the convenience of EVF, you see what you get, so it's quite easy to dial up or down the exposures depending on what you see through the viewfinder. I just trust what I see through the screen most of the time. In the olden days, of course, these the metering modes can be quite useful, just because you can't see a lot of the time. So when you shoot backlit subjects, you may want to do center weighted or spot if you've got really strong contrast on every scenes, and you probably just go ESP, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah, makes sense. And lastly, computational modes. What are you using?
I love using LiveCom. I already said that. I do use a lot of the Live ND and GND, and I think these are the two most used computational features that I do. I rarely do handheld high res unless it's for cityscape when I'm not moving. So I will do the high res shot. I don't do focus stack because I don't think I need to, and because a lot of the time when I do street, things are moving very quickly, so focus stack doesn't really work in that particular case. HDR sometimes, but very, very rarely that I do that, unless the scene is extremely high contrast there, and I might do something. But again, if there are people involved, if I want to capture a moment, HDR, again, it won't work in that particular case. You just have to make sure that the light is correct, and everything falls into place at that moment in time. And bracketing, I don't use.
So let's go into these computational modes then. So long exposure modes. We have 3 different ones on. If you're on a OM3 or an OM1, there are 3 different ones in the bulb mode. So you've got bulb, which is just like your traditional DSLRs back in the day. You press the shutter down, it's pure guesswork unless you've light metered for it.
Yeah.
And obviously it will just give you a timer and it will just keep on going till you release that shutter, essentially.
Yep.
Lifetime is, the way I normally try and explain it is the digital version of that. So you push the button down and it will keep on exposing your image until you basically tell it to stop. It's something that I actually use a lot for kind of landscapes and stuff. So you can see that long exposure happening sometimes. And in low light, it's quite a useful one if you're doing star trails and that sort of thing, as long as you're, depending on how long you're going for. But the one we really want to talk about today is live composite. And I'm kind of going to go to you, Jimmy, to explain what this one is a bit more, as you've used it more than I have, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
you know, the shot that we saw earlier, which was displaying again on here, is exactly that. It was through live composite. So what it happened is when you engage live composite, the very first shot, it wasn't really a shot. So when you first press the shutter button, so what the camera does is, first of all, determining focusing, where to focus, and locks onto it, and then after that it will basically calculate the exposure. This is the point when you can dial it up or down depending on what sort of look you're going for. And once that is determined and set, now the computer will register, so that's the exposure you want to keep. And then after when you start again by pressing the shutter button again, and will basically start the whole long exposure thing. And now the computer will just keep taking pictures, you know, and overlaying on top of the base image, and anything that is brighter, it will continue to build on top of it, but it won't go over that is already set in the base image. So that means that you're never ever going to overexpose something. So that's the cool thing about live composite.
Yes, yeah, it's really simple to use. I was playing with this before the show. It's, you know, it's 3 shutter buttons and you started. And I was looking at some of the other OM videos we've done on this, and one of the tips that came out for me was to use the aperture setting first to work out your exposure. That I thought was just that's a little bit of genius. So that's the one tip. If you take anything out of the day, you're using live comp, is you use the aperture setting to work out your exposure for it, and you're sorted. But obviously you can use this for kind of everything, right? You can use it for light painting, and you know, so even like the clouds in your image, for example, you can tell that you've used this setting for that. But that can be really creative in most landscapes, right? If you're finding that your clouds are quite static and you want them to move. Have you got any kind of other examples of times when you've used it? Obviously, I know we don't have the images, but
I do use live composite in even fireworks. Fireworks work quite well as well, and I did that a few years ago now. I did a wedding when they had fireworks, and I just set it on a tripod and exposed a shot with the guests in front of me, and so I would never kind of overexpose them, and all the fireworks just start building up on the screen, and it looks really cool.
Yes, yeah. So I think it's from mine and Jimmy's side of things. Make sure you actually play with this in your camera, because it can do phenomenal things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just one. It's one thing we've spoken about before many long time ago, but we're trying to re-highlight it as one of the great tools in the camera.
Absolutely.
And then moving on. Multiple exposure. Now I actually learned something new from this myself about the whole overlaying in the reviewing stage of the camera. But did you want to go through kind of the multi-exposure and how that works and why you particularly use it?
Obviously, you know, the multiple exposure is really aiming for creative shots. Is very different to traditional photograph that you do. Although having said that, multiple exposure exists long before you'd even realize it. It happened even way back in film days, you know, analog days. Most film cameras actually did allow you to have double exposures way back. And I remember my point and shoot camera that I mentioned had that mode as well. So I could basically the negative would just never advance. So like it just stays there, and then you expose a second shot. And some cameras allow you to do more than 2, but my simple point and shoot allow me to only 2 exposures. And the way we did it in the past in analog is that you have to underexpose your photograph at least by half a stop to 3/4 of a stop, simply because when you expose it again, you get more light in, so you potentially overexposing the final image if you set it to normal exposure. So with film, you have to be a little bit more careful about how you set the shot up. But in digital, on the other hand, it's different, of course, because in digital you can't add any more light to it once the first image is captured. So whatever is set is set, and then the second one is just basically digitally overlaying on top of it. So to make it work, or to make something like this happen, you just have to make sure how you want to compose your photograph. And in this particular case, you can see that, like I explained earlier, I wanted to place the subject in a frame, obviously, and but to create this sort of effect, the first shot I did has to have some sort of dark stuff going. In this particular, is the silhouette of her face or side profile, and that dark bit will allow me to overlay anything that is brighter on top of it for my second shot. And so the first shot basically is just a plain white background with a silhouette of a side profile, so that creates a first canvas. And then the second shot that go on top of it is when I have a dark background with her fully lit in this particular case. So when you combine the shot together, and that when you get this result.
Nice. And then moving on to the image overlay, I thought this was phenomenal. So essentially, you're able to pick up to 3 images in your review screen and control how they merge together.
Yep.
And then it creates your final image. But the great thing about that is then you can then take that image and grab another 2 images and overlay those. So you have almost an infinite amount of overlaying of multiple exposure. Which I know a lot of people come to me and go, oh, when are you going to make multiple exposure more than 2 images? And it's like, well, actually, we have. It works in a different way, but you have more control over it. So you can control the strength of each image that you're overlaying, which I think is absolutely genius. And it's something I'm definitely going to play with a little bit more. And I would say multiple exposures are getting more and more popular. What would you say, Jimmy?
It definitely is, especially since the resurgence of analog photography the last few years, and there are now a lot of photographers trying to play around with multiple exposures. But like I said, a lot of the analog cameras only allow you to do 2 exposures. So now with people starting to get a hang of it, and if they want to do more than 2 in camera, that is, and the only way to do is find a digital camera that allows you to do that. And I do find that more and more people now experimenting multiple exposures to create something really creative. I have a friend actually who is specialized in multiple exposures, and then he does really great things on multiple exposures. And I'm actually still learning from that guy because he's so cool. He can do 3 or 4, like I said, 3 or 4, 5 shots, and in one image, and that's amazing. Wow. That's really amazing.
That is cool. So make sure everyone get out there and play with multiple exposures. It's a really creative tool. If you feel like you can't take 2 images right then and there, then use the image overlay in the review menu. That worked incredibly well when I was playing with it. Hopefully that's been a little bit educational. And we're going to move on now and talk actually about street photography and kind of the depths of this, and this is where Jimmy's going to be all over this in comparison to me. So let's go on to the types of street photography. Now, I think this is probably when me and you were talking earlier this week about this. I think we've kind of just hit kind of probably the first ones you could think of, but I imagine there's a lot more out there, right?
There are a lot. Yeah, it's almost infinite amount of different types, that you can find, but you can kind of summarize into these few that we listed on the screen right now. It's kind of subject to interpretation as well, depending on how you look at a photograph or how you interpret the scene in general.
Yes, yeah, and where I know this is probably a very tough question because you probably like all of them, but is there a particular one you like doing the most out of that list?
Yes, I do. I do like portraiture, of course, because I do that very often, and documentary is part of the things I do like a lot. And I I would say I kind of got that cross between abstract and also motions. I quite like that as well. I'm not so much of a humor person, although I did take some humorous shots in the past, and I still do sometimes from time to time. And but I'm more into I wouldn't say artsy, but then just like something that is requires a little bit of a skills and a little bit of imaginations to do. So slightly off the main street genre photography, if you know what I mean. So, but I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be urban landscape and architecture, and probably a mix with abstract as well. Finding an abstract kind of in a building, so just using shapes and that sort of thing, I find that amazing.
Yeah.
But I guess what we're trying to say here is that when people talk about street photography, it doesn't have to be kind of, you have to think of everything all at the same time. So you don't have to think of documentary and abstract and portraiture and all that sort of stuff at the same time. You would say realistically that try and focus on one or two, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that applies to everything really in photography, especially for those who are starting out. I think the best way to learn or to master something is to focus on something, right? Is because photography is such a powerful tool, and it's quite easy just to have a go at everything.
Yes.
And because you can because the camera is really powerful these days. It's very capable. You can do all sorts of stuff, especially if you have 2 or 3 lenses with you, and you can literally like do multiple different things at the same time. But when it comes to like starts shooting and practicing, for instance on the street, as you can see that we got multiple different of types of street photography here, and if you're really trying to do everything on a single day, you're not going to get any great shots, if I dare to say that, just because you're trying hard to do everything. So by limiting yourself to just 1 or 2 things, and then you are starting to look for opportunity, you're starting to observe and trying to find the stuff that you want to photograph instead of just randomly doing things. You may end up you may be lucky to get 1 or 2 good shots, but if you are just focusing on just one thing, you may actually got 10 shots that are good instead of just 1 or 2. So that would be my advice for people who may be starting out. And once you learn about all that stuff, and then you know that what you like and what you don't like, and then you can just focusing on 1 or maybe just 2 major things for an entire career. And that when you build up the body of work, build up your style, and then you're becoming a photographer for that type of photography.
Yeah, that's it. So I suggest everyone take a screenshot of that, so you make a tick list out of it. So you go out for a few days and go and do some street on each different topic and see which ones you like and don't like, and then focus on those.
Yeah.
And then from there, we came up with a kind of a few focuses within street, didn't we?
Yes.
And so this is kind of delving a little bit deeper into that.
Yes.
For me, shapes and colors and kind of storytelling are the 3 big ones for me.
Yes.
But what about you?
All plays into parts of street photography, and in fact any photography, to be honest. Shape, colors, lines and symmetry, all of these stuff can be applied to any type of photography. But in street, that's depending on what type of thing you're going for. I do like literally applying mixture of some of these stuff, if not all of these stuff, into my photography. Especially in black and white, for instance, I really love lights and shadows, symmetries and leading lines and that kind of thing, and to create the drama, which you put it there. And so that's what I like. And emotions and storytelling, that I tend to do that in color, and although sometimes black and white also works depending on the lighting conditions. If it's a very harsh light, and it will work with storytelling and emotion in black and white, and in color it is slightly more forgiving when it comes to doing that kind of thing. But overall, I would say that all of this stuff matters. All of this stuff can be applied into street photography. You know, in some cases, I would say all of these are actually in my photography.
Yeah. No. Again, I think that's another checklist for people to use, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then we came up with kind of 6 tips, didn't we? Which we think are ultimately important.
Yep. So I think, no problem. And so I think a couple of points, we kind of mentioned it already, but let's go through from the top there. Don't be afraid of elements. And when I say elements, it means weather. So a lot of photographer, the common thing is you do see them happening is that whenever rain starts, they go and hide. And then even though they have a perfectly fine system that can withstand elements, then they would just hide because they don't want to get wet. But I can tell you that if you're there to go out and shoot in the rain, you'll be amazed how many great shots you're going to get. And I guess they look different, they feel different, and the effect coming out from it is different because you can't replicate it. Rain is a different type of photography you're going to get. So you're exposing yourself to a completely new categories or new style that you don't normally get, of course, unless it's starting to rain. So like if you're just shooting a sunny day, and that's always going to be one look. So if you combine it with the different type of elements, stormy, windy, you know, rainy weathers, you will get all kinds of different lighting, different drama, different kind of style you can get from the photography. So don't be afraid, just go and shoot regardless of obviously within safety, the whole consideration. If you're lightning starting to strike you, if you're standing on an empty field or a flat field, don't do that. And but other than that, you know, you can do whatever you want. Be patient. Yes, I also noticed that these days a lot of people don't have that, and because I mean, I can understand that because we're busy, we have a busy life, you know, things is rushing, and especially when you go traveling, you only have a limited time to visit that city or place. You just want to go quickly from here to A, from to B, and cover as much ground as possible, and I totally get that. But if you're in your hometown, in your home city, doing street photography, for instance, don't do the same thing because you have the time. You live there. You are local. You can do things. You can take your time to do everything, because patience will allow you to see things that you don't normally see. And if you like a particular spot, if you think that's a favorite spot of yours, and if you think the light always hit the same spot in creating that drama scene that you really want to do it, stay there for half an hour, you know, and 45 minutes to see what happened. Because the longer you wait, the more chances you're going to get something very, very unique and different. Yeah, it's a patience game. And you learn it from many great masters of street photographers in the past, you know, John or Henrico de Bresson. You know, he visited the same place again and again for about 3 months. He observes the situations. He was very patient before he took that jumping punch shot. So it's not a simple thing that you just go, oh, I snapped that, you know, count your luck, you know, just like that. It's never like that. So great photographs come from patience. It's not a random thing altogether. And yep, sorry, go
on. Focus on chosen type of street photography. We've just spoken about that, really.
Yeah. So limit yourself, and that way you won't get confused, and you won't try to do too much and overbearing yourself, and you're just happy to focus on one or two things. Just look for those opportunities and go ahead and press the shutter button. As simple as that. And be creative. And again, this is something I would say when you become more experienced, and when you do a little bit more photography, then you soon find out that how come my photograph looks the same all the time? And that means you already reached the point that you need to start breaking the mold. You need to start going beyond, and start thinking outside of the box. So you start to have experiment, and like I said earlier about projects, and then you really trying to do something different. You need to try to maybe do a little bit of reading, look at photo books, look at some other photographers' work, whether any of them inspire you to do something, and then you go ahead and try it and replicate it. And once you master that kind of skills and things, you may start to develop your own approach to doing that type of thing, and then you can become more and more creative because of that.
Yeah. And the next one relates to one of the questions we had a minute ago, but be brave.
Yes. It's hard. Yeah, I know it's hard saying and done it. And it's also depending on your personality, especially when it comes to street portrait. If there's no right or wrong, again, with all due respect, there are people who are extroverts, there are people who are introvert. So some people just may not be have that confidence to speak to people, especially strangers. So they would not be able to do what some other photographer can do on the streets by asking strangers to do photographs. But again, there are different approach. You can do the candid one, so you can just step away, further away, using a slightly longer lens and just capture some moments on the street. And then there are some who just go up right up front and talk to people and asking for portrait. So it's totally fine with that. To answer the question that we had earlier, I think that you're afraid of people being angry at you and things like that. To be honest, depending on scenarios and also where you are, I would say on a public street, wherever you are in the world, if it's on the public street, they can't do anything to you. It's perfectly legal, to do something like that. And also at the same time, you may just want to be respectful as well. If someone does notice you taking photograph of them, and if they suddenly come up to you and say that, did you take my photos? And you can have a nice exchange. There's no shouting or anything like that. Just say, yeah, I did. And would you like me to remove it? And if it's okay, I think, just doing some street photography here. I think you look great in that spot. The light was hitting you really perfectly fine. I think it's gonna be a cracking shot. If he or she is still insisting on, no, removing that picture, just respect that. It's all about mutual respect. Although legally you're allowed to do that because they're in a public space, but in a private space it's very differently. If you're photographing in shopping centers, in a private buildings, in a private garden and things like that, then of course it's illegal to do that. So then you just have to be wary about where you're shooting and things like that, and just always, I just always say that, this is be respectful. We all human here. We're all living on the same street and the same planet. If someone do that to you, if you feel bad about it, what are you going to do about it? So it's two-way thing. So most of the cases, I would say that 90% of the time when I shoot strangers on the street, they're fine with that. But I did encounter people come up to me say that, can you remove that photo? I was like, okay, fair enough. I'll just remove it. So I even show it to them that I remove it in front of them so they know it's been removed.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one, shoot with intention, which is probably what one of the biggest tips out of all of this, I think.
Yes, we always say that, or we'll always ask the question, why do you take that photo? So that why is exactly what that is now, shoot with intention. So every time you click that shutter button, make sure you are doing it because you want to. So that's an intention to take that shot, because that's answering the why in your head, so why do you take that shot? Because of what? So this is the key for any photographer, any photographer, because it's an important thing to understand that you just don't randomly take 1,000 photos in a spot without reasons. There has to be a reason for that, and you have to answer that yourself. That's why I think shoot with intention is always going to be the key of any photographer for any type of photography.
Yeah, it's always those. I think working by those 6 tips, I think most people should get somewhere in street photography, whether you're beginning or you're kind of a bit more experienced. That working by those, I think everyone should should get something out on the street market in terms of photography.
Yep.
So we're going to move on, and Jimmy, unfortunately, you've got a little bit more talking to do. So hopefully people have found that really, really useful, and yeah, hopefully, whether it's the settings, the computational modes, whatever it might be, hopefully you've got a little bit of something out of that, so you can go off and play and shoot some street photography. But you need some inspiration to do that. So we've got Jimmy's 5 images from 2025. Now I'm pretty much going to hand it all over to him. All you need to do is let me know when you want me to turn images. But I also know you want to talk about this image first as well.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you start and let me know when you want me to change.
This is an image I'm quite proud of when I took this, and this is in Tokyo again, and I love Tokyo, and I took many great shots over there. Whenever I display this photograph to friends or to other photographers, the first thing they ask me was it multiple exposure? And I said, no, it wasn't. It's actually a single image, and it's a reflection shot. So it's a very interesting reflection that I found on one of this glass panel next to a staircase on the rooftop. So this is in I think it's Tokyo Sky Tokyo. I can't remember exactly the name of that place. So you basically go up to the rooftop of this building, very high up in Tokyo. You can overlook at the entire landscape. It's a brilliant location for those who are into photography. You can get some great shots above it, and I can see that this is a sunset, so you can get the really orangey sky there. So what I did was, or what I looked for, was something unique and different. Most photographers go up there is trying to photograph this sunset, exactly sunset in the far distance where the mountains are, which is a cool shot, by the way. And but you know what I don't want, in fact, is the advice as well. What you don't want is that you don't want to replicate what other people has done. There will be like 500 people doing exactly the same thing, and that means after that moment, there will be 500 images online straight away with the same image. So my advice is that if you wanted to be different, you want to be, advancing your game a little bit further, just don't do what other people do. Just, find something else to do. In my instance, that I was stepped away from the crowd, and I'm trying to look for other, angles I could do, while trying to keep the sunset that I was, there for that reasons, right? So I'm trying to find a sunset that being reflected. So that's when I started to walk around and saw this glass panel reflecting the orangey light. So the more I look at it, the more I realize that, okay, there's something else underneath, because it's a glass. So it's see-through, right? So you can actually see through the actual city underneath. So I get the reflection from the sunrise, from the sunset, and at the same time I'm capturing the city underneath when the darker section of the glass reflection was. So you can actually see almost in the same kind of theory as double exposures. So and this shot is actually quite cool.
Yeah, it's a really great shot. I will just mention that if you have got any questions for Jimmy, make sure you get them in now. When we get to the end of this, we'll have a bit of a question time for about 5 minutes or so. So just make sure you get all your questions in as we go through these images. So
yep,
let's go to the next one.
So and again, it's very interesting, and I utilize a lot of different skills in this one. Not skills, but that's different type of elements in this photograph. So first of all, negative space. People have heard of that term, negative space, leading lines, and these are all elements within this particular shot. And of course, this is also a reflection shot. I love reflections, as you can kind of gather by now. And so I was sitting on a train, and then I saw this young lady was sitting there also pondering through the glass, looking into the city in the far end, and the light suddenly hit her face, and I saw this reflection in front of me, and I thought, that is really awesome. And then I look at it, and I just waited and waited, because I just wanted nothing on her face through the window. So I took about 3, maybe 4 shots, and this was the one that came out, because the train obviously was moving fairly fast, and I just wanted to make sure that she was in the clear. in terms of reflection, because you can see that in the distance there are some buildings still building in the far distance there. So if the building in the wrong place, it will be in her face, and that would not look good. So I just have to make sure that I position her correctly in this particular case, and all the leading line just pointed to her, just creating that visual interest to draw you in from right to left. And I just think that is just very visually pleasing in this particular case.
Yeah, nice. And we'll move on to the next one. I really like this image, by the way.
And this one, I'm playing with multiple things, and once again, reflection.
Common theme.
Yeah, it's a common theme. So you can kind of see where I'm coming from now. And so, yeah, I love this shot because the middle bit is it's a very shiny, polished surface that reflecting St. Paul Cathedral is in the distance. But on either side of it, one is actually the wooden decking, and on the other side is actually a glass roof. So by positioning the shot like this, it creating almost like a what I would call this, one of those montages. It's almost like cutting up pieces of different photographs and stick them together. I think it created a really cool textural differences and in a single frame. It almost looked like I said, cutting up into 3 images and stick them together, so you had that look to it, yet it's actually a single image. And also at the same time, I'm trying to highlight where I am. So St. Paul Cathedral is a perfectly good landmark to do so. So this shot, it just I like about this kind of contrast, and I like to play around different textures, and once again in reflection, which I will always like as well.
Yeah. Next one.
Many people who live in London might notice where this is, and so it's right by the St. Paul Cathedral as well. So in fact, it's not too far from that shot you just saw. And I love this curly staircase there, and I used the 8-25 f4 Pro for this shot, so I got wide enough to covering the entire staircase, and just tying a little bit of a slow exposure. So this is not live composite. This is not this actually slow shutter. So I was doing handheld the camera with maybe I think 1/10 of a second, maybe even like half a second. So it's quite slow shutter, and so I can blur the people out for this shot. And of course, once again, I have to time it, and I have to make sure that the person's in the right place in the frame. I also angle myself to make sure that everything in the right order and the right shape, and also right direction. So yeah, it's a simple thing. You can kind of. The interesting about this shot is that I'm not sure whether you can actually see the reflection from the kind of almost like just next to the LG logo and the lower ground logo, on kind of like a little reflection of the staircase.
Yeah.
Yep. That completes the shot. So if that reflection wasn't there, I wouldn't take this shot, because if you look at the aesthetically, for the completeness of it, that reflection is almost creating a loop for this photograph. So it's just that kind of visual elements I was looking for. So I didn't zoom it all the way in just to capture the motion of these two people. I was capturing the entire staircase, including that reflection on the far end. So you can see that kind of visually is almost like a little loop going around in a circle, keep going around.
Nice. Next image.
This is actually an interesting shot, although I think I'll take a better shot today. but I always like that kind of subject isolation shots and on the street. This is probably only one of them, and I always looking out for street lights, very high contrast scenarios where white is white, black is black, and trying to just basically place a subject in the light bit, so you can actually see the contrast between them to highlight whatever they're doing. And in some way, I when I say subject isolations, I always feel like I want to capture, the loneliness of human nature. So like a single person in a frame sometimes is what intrigue me, wherever they are. You could be on an empty road, an empty field, and on the street like this, but by doing a hand contrast scene with lighting like this, and it further accentuated the separations between the subject and the surroundings. So it gives you that kind of like loneliness, but in a more exaggeration level.
Yes. Yeah. And last image.
I like this. It's just fun to play around with, sometimes, with the subject but no subject, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like you don't see that person, and then it just shows another side of human natures, or human, in our society. Some people can be seen, some people you can't be seen. So I like that kind of contrast as well. So like in this particular case, I just find that perfect kind of contrast. It was raining, and like I said, I shoot in the rain, so I don't mind it at all. So I was standing right there, looking at this red phone booth, because it sticks out. It draws his attention straight away. So if I just take that phone booth, it's a boring shot, right? So and I just waited, and it was raining. I know people is going to hold umbrella at some point. He's going to walk past in front of me, and so I was just waiting something to happen. And indeed, this lady just walked past with a green umbrella. So I thought that's a good contrast in terms of color, and it draws attention. And the red phone booth highlights where I am in London, and also so the whole idea of this umbrella walking past, it just gives you that life in this particular frame, and just shows that where we are, and how interesting a rainy scene can be.
Yes. Yeah. So hopefully everyone has got some inspiration out of that. I think there's a lot of images there. They're great. Each one's quite different as well in terms of what they were kind of trying to show, and I kind of like that about your work, is that every shot was kind of unique in its own way, which is great. So it's good.
Thank you.
It's good. So not that you need my approval in any shape or form. So whilst we get some of the last questions in, make sure you get your questions in now if you haven't already. I'm just going to go quickly through some updates and kind of a bit of what's going on for you quickly. So just to let you guys know, there is a Urban Adventure cashback. So you've got the OM3 there with £250 cashback on the kit, £175 cashback on the body. You've got all those f1.2 lenses as well, and all the 1.8s all on cashback. So you've got if you're going to get into street, now is a really, really good time to do it. There's some really, really powerful cashbacks to get involved with. So make sure you get into that promotion. And in the UK, you've only got 4 days left. So make sure you get on top of it. Make it happen. Get into your stores.
It's a good deal, I can tell you that.
Yeah, you can't get much better than that. So from there, me and Jimmy are doing some photo walks together with some of our retail partners. So we've got Parks on Monday the 15th of June. We are running 2 photo walks, if I'm not mistaken. I can't truly remember the times, but I believe it's 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock that we'll be doing them. You can book them or follow the links through the OM event page for that. And then we're also doing one the very next morning. We're keeping you very busy, Jimmy. So we're doing Wex Whitechapel in the morning, which should also be a really interesting one. Again, you can follow that through our event page. And Jimmy, you're kind of thinking about the routes for all these at the moment, aren't you? It's very soon.
Yes. I mean, I think that to summarize this, if people are interested, these 2 is going to be very, very different walks altogether. So if you're interested in learning multiple aspects of it, it's good to try both. And but I'm going to quickly tell you the difference between the 2. For park cameras on the 15th of June, I'll be doing a little bit more creative shots, so utilizing reflections and something like that. And on the Wex for the session on the following day, it'll be more the traditional type of street photography, and it could be light and shadow, could be leading line, and because of the location, and there are more elements you can get that type of shot. So that's the difference between the 2.
Good. Well, so make sure you guys kind of get on that as soon as possible. I believe there's only 10 places per one. So make sure you kind of look on our event page or through Wex or Park Cameras and get booked onto those ASAP. And then us at OM are incredibly busy. So to give you an idea, we've got 2 OM talks ready to go. We've got one that is a very special Namibia review, where some of the team with some of the ambassadors went out to Namibia and took some amazing shots. So we'll be discussing that. We've got the OM talks with Kieran Scudder about F1 and travel photography. That should be really, really interesting as well. And then the new one with me is the next walkthrough. Next big walkthrough is British wildlife with Espen. So that should be a really exciting talk as well. I'm quite excited for that. I've seen a lot of his shots, and
Espen is a good dude. Yes, he's good.
Yeah, yeah, he knows what he's doing. That's for sure.
Yep.
And then in terms of physical events, so we've got more park cameras. So the 13th this weekend, you'll find me there at Burgess Hill. The big one, we've got Wales and West, literally next week now. We are doing a macro setup. We've got ambassadors there. We're doing some talks with Gavin Hoey and some others. So yeah, make sure you come and see us for that. That's going to be a really amazing show with us. And then we've got macro days in Southampton. We've got Bird Fair coming up. Yeah, we've got Bird Fair. That again should be really, really fun. We've got a big stand for that, so that's all ready to go. I've even got an OM3 photo walk for Gloucester, so my hometown. So if you are there, then come and see me. Jimmy, unfortunately, isn't there for that one, but I'm sure Jimmy will want to discuss that after the show. And we've then got all the Wex road shows coming up as well. So, you know, we've got Manchester, Bristol, Birmingham, all the ones you can think of. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the next couple of months. Yeah, you'll see me somewhere. So make sure you join us and kind of get the download on everything OM from us.
Yep. Best chance to have a hands on the gear as well. That's good.
Yeah, you got to think I carry pretty much at least one of everything on me, right? So, you know, you can play with everything. I've even got very quickly the OM3 grips from two of the manufacturers that are making them. So if you're wondering about OM3 and grips and actually want to get hands on before you purchase an OM3, or you know, wondering about the grip situation, you come and play with them. We actually have them to play with. So, cool. Just talking about OM talks with Kieran Scudder. The next one, the debate is quite an interesting one. Is photography, is it more to document or is it to be creative? It's quite an interesting debate. It's quite an interesting topic, and I'm sure, Jimmy, you've got some answers to that, and I'm sure if we had another hour, we'd probably get through it. Yeah. We'll also do a bit more of a deep dive in the TG7 and the accessories it has for it. So if some people don't realize that the actual mounting point comes off as a bayonet point, and there's underwater houses, lighting, and all sorts for it. So we'll go through those bits as well. And the big point of this is then the hashtag for OM Talks, the photography challenge. So the theme is summer this time. So if you think of your typical British or worldwide summer occasion, photograph that, tag us into it. So with the hashtag OM Talks, and you never know, we may be showing your image on the next show and talking about it. And you never know, there might be a prize involved if you get shown. So there we go.
Get busy. Get busy.
Get busy. I want to see lots of images, guys. So bring it on.
Nice.
You'll also see mine and Luke's images on there as well, which I don't know, might be interesting.
I'm sure it'll be brilliant.
So just quickly going into question time then. We've got a few minutes left. Let's have a little look. Here we go. This is an interesting one. Do you have any tips for using TG7 for street photography? I like it.
It's a great tool, and in fact, one of the images that you saw earlier was taken with TG7 as well. And I actually love using this little guy for street. One cool thing about small sensor cameras, and it's not just about technicality side of it, but because of the inherent depth of field coming out from a small sensor, which means that you don't really have to worry about missing the focus. And in this particular case, the TG7 is brilliant for that. And like I said, I like to shoot things with f8, f11 a lot of times, and this guy actually works brilliantly for that. Even I can shoot wide open f2, you can still got plenty of depth of field to do that. And the TG7 gets some of this like amazing colors that you don't normally get from a small sensor cameras. And so for those who don't believe me, I don't know if Richard can bring up that image that I had before for that.
Let's try and find it.
Yep. There you go. That's it. The top left corner, the one with the blue car. That shot was taken with the TG7, and I zoom all the way in from the top of the building to do that shot, because that's why you can see kind of like a top-down thing. So it's perfectly capable of doing that type of shot. And in fact, I mean, I can dare to say that I could probably take the same shot with the bottom right and then the top right corner, that type of shot, you know, because you can see there's no subject separations. It's all very deep depth of field there. And it does give you that kind of look as well. So it's brilliant for that.
Good. Yeah. I think that's that camera could be used for a lot of different things, but
yes,
street, can, yes. Even in terms of reflections, actually, I've used it a lot for reflection photography. It does a wondrous job at that. So,
yeah.
I don't know how it makes it any different, but there's a different tone to it. It's,
yes.
Here's another question for you. Are you not worried about walking with flashy camera stuff? That's why you take a TG7.
Well, I mean, I don't know where you live, but in London in particular, I walked around different places every day. I can easily say that there are people carrying more expensive cameras than I am, so I don't think I'm that worried, to be quite frank. I'm more worried about getting damaged by something sudden drop on top of it than anything else. And plus the OM3 with small primes and things like that, like, you know, my usual kit that I use for street photography is actually very discreet, and it doesn't really shout too much. Plus the lens is quite small, so it doesn't really stick out, so people don't realize it. From distance, people actually thought you're carrying an old film camera, so they not even bother looking at me at all.
Brilliant. And last one about TG7. There's been quite a fandom of TG7 today. I use live comp on the TG7. I think it's pretty cool. I forgot it even had it on it, to be honest. So
it has Pro Capture too.
So yeah, it's quite an exciting one. So I think that's all the questions I can find. If there is any more whilst we just finish up, then let us know. But Jimmy, thank you very much for coming on, and obviously educating everyone.
Yep.
Hopefully you've had fun.
I did, of course.
Good. Just check that one last time for any questions. No, cool. Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you. It's been a very long session, but hopefully we've learned an awful lot out of it. And thank you everyone for spending a bit of time with us and giving us lots of questions. So, and thank you again, Jimmy, for spending time with me to make all this happen today.
No, it's brilliant. I love this, and keep doing this big walkthrough. I think it's a brilliant chance to not just about learning a photographer, but learning about the genre of photography, which, you know, every time you do it is do a different type of photography. So it really is eye-opening experience just to see you know, what different type of photography is, and you can find your way through it. And then that's the only way to do it. And plus you demonstrated everything from the technicality side of it, from the gear and the lenses, and speaking with the photographer, their experience and explaining, you know, their photography really helps. It's actually quite educational.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that means a lot to me. So thank you very much for those warm words. So right. Thank you everyone. Have a good evening or a good morning wherever you are, and we will see you again for another big walkthrough very, very soon. See you guys.
Bye.